with toys until a long age, until I was like 15, until late age. So I was here I was 15 years old, playing with my toys, G.I. Joes, and I will mix all kinds of different toys. And I was ashamed, you know, I would not tell my friends, I would not tell my parents, so sometimes my parents will see and they thought I was crazy. But it was my only way to express storytelling, you know, that's as far as I went. You know, at the age of 16, I stopped playing, and I moved to Austin, Texas, and, you know, when I got there, I still didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't care about learning English. So 5 months into that, one day, I see a film shoot in the streets. And it called my attention a lot. You know, I was looking at it, and I saw the cameras, the lights, and the actors, and, you know, I was drawn to it. And I realized that what they were doing, it was the same thing that I was doing with my toys. Instead of with toys, they were using real people. They were using actors. And, you know, I didn't speak a word of English because I didn't care about it. So even though I was already 5 months, I still didn't know anything. I approached one of the guys, and I asked him, hey, you know, what's this? And, you know, we communicated, like, you know, with sign language, and they told me they were film students and they studied film, and I didn't know you could study film, you know. So they pointed at the University of Texas. You know, if you guys ever been at the University of Texas, is to me one of the biggest. Kept going and going and going. I was just living out of loans and stuff like that. So after all that time of just struggling really hard, you know, I was already used to living on the couch. So I was like, you know what, I'm not going to compromise. You know, I was like, I will feel like I will be literally prostituting myself if I do something that doesn't go in line with what I believe. How am I going to make a film? At the end, it's a form of expression. How am I going to express something that I totally disagree with? So I can't. And one day my brother, I'm in Mexico, and my older brother who owns restaurants, he calls me. He's like, hey man, you should come to the restaurant right now. I'm here with Eduardo Verasti. And, you know, I knew of him very well, and we were from the same town. He was really good friends with my older brother. So, you know, I know Eduardo since I was a kid, but just know of him. You know, he would come to my house a couple of times, but, you know, he was not my friend. He was my older brother's friend. And at that time, you know, I was more in the rebel side. You know, I didn't like commercial films or anything. I actually was like angry at Hollywood. So I would only make films that explore more on the kind of like the dark side of humanity. And at that time, you know, I was not too excited about meeting Eduardo because, you know, I knew he was more in the line of making commercial films and, you know, more on the commercial side. But Eduardo, my brother, told me one thing. He's like, you know what, you should talk to him because he's in a place that kind of like you guys speak the same language. He really wants to, in a way, do things that impact the world in positive ways. So that really caught my attention. I said, whoa, I'll be there in 5 minutes. So I went in there, and we met at my brother's restaurant, and we started talking, and we connected right away, and we found out that we're in the same philosophies. And however, he kind of was like already ready to give it up if he was not attached to it anymore. He was ready to, like, you know what, he was like ready not to compromise ever. And if that meant never to work, he was ready to just move on. And I think he wanted to move to the jungle and make a difference in the jungle. And he has a very interesting story about that he will tell. And we started talking on the phone and trying to find a project. Finally, he finds a project. He's like, hey, what about this? So he sends me the project. I read the project, and I liked it. I said, well, let's do this. So perfect. So come, you got to move to LA, man, to do this. It's okay. I packed everything on my car, and I drive to LA. In my drive from Austin to LA, which is 2 days, I believe that we human beings don't give ourselves time to think, and because we're always busy. So when you're actually driving, or you're actually like away, we start hearing things, or things that we're supposed to hear, and tell stories that we're supposed to tell. So when I was driving from Austin to LA, Bella comes into mind. Like, I remember driving, and you almost felt like somebody was telling me the story, like feeding me the story. And I was driving, I would pull over, I would cry, and it was very intense. I would keep driving, and the whole drive, the movie Bella just came to my head, all of it from beginning, middle, and end. So I arrived to LA around 4:15, and I got lost for an hour. So I finally arrived into the house around 6 o'clock. Next thing, it's one thing my father always told me was that if you want something to happen, you need to talk to somebody who can make things happen. And he will tell me those sayings since I was a kid, so I apply that in my life, you know. So I walk into the University of Texas and I asked to talk to the head of admissions at the time. And with my little English I had, I spoke to her and I told her like 4 words, kind of like me, dream, film, here. And of course, you know, she laughed, she thought it was cute, but she said, hey, you know, first you have to apply, second you have to learn English, third you have to have a GPA of 3.5, and fourth, we're overbooked right now. We're at the admissions are like that year and I didn't care. I said, this is where I'm going to go. And, you know, I knew that there was going to be 2 ways to get in. One way was the ordinary way that everybody does. And the other way was going to be my way. And I discovered that my way, the only way, was going to be to really show that person who could really get me in my passion for film. And I was going to demonstrate her that I was going to do everything I could to be able to do the requirements. So I started applying, and I got rejected 3 times. And I transferred my, so the way I was going to pay for that, I say, you know, I don't need an apartment if I'm going to be working in school at night. So I used my dorm money to pay for the film stock. And I found a couch on the 7th floor of the University of Texas where the teachers get their mail. And I decided I was going to sleep in there and take a shower and, you know, at the gym at the University of Texas. I was going to live here and work. So I became homeless for the whole semester, and I was just working. And at the end of the class, my film, you know, which was called Bocho, was my first short film, ended up breaking the record at the class, because it was the first time filmmaker ever to win 4 film festivals. So that opened a lot of doors. And at that time, I was really getting into film, not really film, into the technicality of film. You know, what really makes a picture look great. And I realized that the next step up was to shoot on 35, to shoot, you know, 35 millimeter. My first show was shot on 16. So I wanted to automatically jump into 35. And I was reading all the magazines, and everywhere I saw was like the pros, the masters were shooting Panavision.